The palace of the alien queen stood on the highest cliffs of her world. Its towers reached the sky like silver spears, and its walls glowed softly as if alive with energy. From the windows, one could see the wide oceans that surrounded the capital city. The palace had always been a place of order and calm, but on this day, fear and panic swept through its halls. The queen's daughter, Lyra, was missing. Servants rushed across the corridors, guards shouted commands, and advisors gathered in worried groups. No one could understand how the princess could disappear from a ship that had been carefully guarded. The queen sat on her throne, her tall frame straight and unshaken, yet her eyes betrayed the storm in her heart. She was not just a ruler, but also a mother, and the thought of her child in danger weighed heavily upon her. Lyra had been traveling on a diplomatic journey. It was meant to be simple, only a short trip to a nearby moon where leaders of smaller colonies had gathered. She had been escorted by loyal soldiers, skilled pilots, and advanced security systems. Yet the ship had gone silent in the middle of its voyage. Hours later, only wreckage was found drifting near the edge of an asteroid belt. The guards were gone, and Lyra herself was nowhere to be seen. Rumors spread quickly. Some whispered that pirates had taken her since raiders often hunted in those regions. Others suggested that a rival kingdom had plotted this as a strike against the queen's rule. But there were also darker whispers, spoken only in secret chambers. They said humans might be involved. Humans were still new in the galaxy. Their arrival had surprised many older civilizations who believed themselves unmatched. Humans had little technology compared to the great empires, but they had grown fast. Some races admired their spirit and will to explore, but others saw them as reckless and dangerous. The disappearance of the princess gave fuel to those who distrusted them. Inside the throne room, the queen's advisors argued. "It must be pirates," said one, his voice sharp. "They will demand ransom, and we will be forced to pay." "No," said another. "This was too well planned. Only someone with knowledge of our roots could have done this. We must look within our own borders." But then an older advisor leaned forward. His voice was quiet, yet it silenced the others. "Do not forget the humans. They are restless. They seek influence in every corner. Who can say they are not behind this?" The queen listened, but did not speak at once. Her mind moved through every possibility, weighing each carefully. She knew her people were afraid, but she also knew the humans had not yet shown such bold cruelty. Still, with her daughter missing, even small doubts felt heavy. Meanwhile, far from the palace, news of the disappearance spread to distant stations and colonies. Among those who heard it was a human pilot named Aaron. He was stationed at a small outpost near the edge of known space, a quiet place where supply ships came and went. Aaron was not famous, nor was he part of any grand fleet. He was simply a pilot who loved the stars and lived for the freedom of flight. That evening, while checking his ship's systems, he caught fragments of a signal. At first, it seemed like background noise broken by static. But when he tuned closer, he heard faint words, a call for help. The voice was weak, almost lost, yet it carried a sense of fear and desperation. Aaron leaned closer to the receiver. "Is anyone there?" the voice said, though broken by static. "Help! Trapped!" Aaron frowned. The coordinates were near the same asteroid belt where the princess's ship had last been seen. He hesitated, wondering if it was a trick. That region was known for traps set by pirates. Yet something in the tone of the voice struck him. It did not sound like bait. It sounded real. Aaron checked with the station's command. They dismissed it quickly, saying the area was dangerous and not worth the risk. No official mission would be sent there. But Aaron could not push the voice from his mind. Someone was out there, calling for help, and he was one of the few who had picked it up. As the queen held council in her shining palace, Aaron made his choice in silence. He fueled his small ship, loaded supplies, and prepared for the journey. He did not know whose voice he had heard, nor what dangers waited in that dark region of space. Yet he felt that his path was clear. Back on the Queen's world, the night was long. She stood at the balcony of her chamber, looking at the stars above. Somewhere in that endless sky, her daughter was alone. She thought of Lyra's laughter, her curiosity about the world beyond their own, and the way her spirit often led her into small adventures. The Queen whispered a vow to the winds. "Wherever you are, my child, I will not stop until you are safe." The court worked tirelessly, but in their search for logic and power, they overlooked one small truth. Sometimes salvation did not come from armies or fleets. Sometimes it came from a single choice, made by a single soul, far away. Aaron's ship was not the most powerful craft in space, nor was it the fastest, but it was reliable and carried his spirit with every flight. Its hull was patched in places, its engines had a hum that only he understood, and its controls responded to him, as if the ship itself trusted him. For years, he had lived far from the centers of power, flying small jobs, carrying supplies, and sometimes guiding travelers through dangerous zones. Aaron was a man of the stars more than of any one planet. That night, as he prepared for his journey, the outpost around him slept in silence. The command center had dismissed the faint signal he had discovered, but Aaron could not do the same. He kept hearing the weak cry in his mind. It was as if the stars themselves were calling him. He packed carefully, food rations, water, tools, and spare fuel cells. He checked his weapons too, though his ship carried only light arms. Against raiders, such firepower would be almost useless, but Aaron was not a man who relied only on weapons. He trusted his skill, his instincts, and his will. Before dawn touched the outpost, his ship lifted from the dock. The engines roared softly, then faded into the quiet hum of spaceflight. Aaron set his course for the asteroid belt. The navigation screen showed shifting clusters of rock, marked as unstable and unsafe. Most ships avoided the place, yet Aaron had flown through such fields before. He breathed deeply and whispered to himself, "We'll find them." The journey was long, and the stars outside passed like silent watchers. Aaron thought about the voice he had heard. It had sounded young, strained, and full of fear. He wondered if it belonged to a stranded miner, a lost trader, or perhaps someone captured by raiders. He did not know it was the princess herself. To him, it was simply a person in need, and that was enough. As he neared the belt, his scanners flickered, with strange readings. The rocks shifted constantly, pulled by hidden gravity currents, colliding and breaking apart. The space between them was filled with dust and fragments. Aaron slowed his ship and took control manually. His hands moved across the controls with calm precision. Every rock that spun too close, every piece of debris that threatened to strike, he dodged with quick adjustments. His heart raced, yet his mind stayed sharp. Hours passed as he searched through the field. Static filled his comm system, and at times he thought the signal had been lost. But then, faintly, he heard it again, the same weak voice. "Help! Anyone!" The sound gave him strength. He pressed forward, guiding his ship deeper. Finally, between two massive boulders, his sensors caught something unusual. A metallic shape, larger than the rocks, hidden in their shadows. Aaron leaned closer to the screen. It was a vessel, broken and scarred. Parts of its hull had been torn open, and faint energy sparks flickered from its surface. It was silent, almost lifeless, yet there was something inside. Aaron felt it. He guided his ship nearer, moving carefully so as not to disturb the unstable field. He shone a light across the wreck. Strange markings covered the hull, symbols unlike human design. This was no pirate ship, nor was it a trader's vessel. Aaron had never seen such craftsmanship before. The thought stirred a memory. Stories of the alien Queen's fleet, their elegant ships unlike any others. Could this wreck belong to them? Aaron docked his craft with the wreck and donned his suit. The airlock hissed as it opened, releasing him into silence. His boots touched the cracked metal of the unknown ship. He walked slowly, light in hand, listening for any sound. The corridors inside were dark, twisted by damage. Sparks leapt from broken wires, and the floor was littered with fragments. Then he heard it. A soft cry, faint but near. He moved quickly, his light sweeping the walls until it found a sealed chamber. The door was bent, but not destroyed. Behind its small window he saw a figure, a young woman, her features delicate and unlike any human. Her skin held a pale glow, and her eyes were large, shining even in the dark. She pressed her hands against the glass, eyes wide with hope. Aaron's breath caught. She was alive. He tried to open the door, but the panel was dead. He set his tools down and began working, prying wires and forcing circuits together. Sparks flew, and for a moment he thought the whole system might fail. But then the lock released with a hiss. The door slid open slightly, and he pulled it wide. The young woman stumbled forward. She was weak but not wounded. Aaron caught her before she could fall. For a moment she stared at him in confusion. Her lips parted as she spoke in a voice soft and melodic. "You are human." Aaron nodded. "Yes, I heard your signal. You're safe now." She blinked, almost surprised at his words. No human had ever stood so close to her before. For her people, humans were still strangers, beings spoken of with caution. Yet here stood one, offering his strength without hesitation. "I am Lyra," she whispered. "Daughter of the Queen." Aaron paused, the truth striking him. This was no ordinary rescue. He had found the missing princess. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath at that moment. There was no time to lose. He guided her back to his ship, moving quickly through the wreck's corridors. Once inside, he settled her in a seat and secured the hatch. His engines roared as he pulled away from the broken vessel, but safety was not yet theirs. Alarms rang across his console. Raiders had entered the field. Their ships lit up the dark, moving like wolves among the rocks. Aaron gripped the controls tightly. He knew what this meant. The chase was about to begin. Lyra watched him, her fear slowly turning to trust. She had thought her end was certain, yet here was a human, risking everything for her life. Aaron glanced at her, his voice steady. "Hold on. We're not out yet, but I'll get us through." The asteroid field was alive with danger. Massive rocks spun through the void, colliding with each other in bursts of soundless force. Smaller fragments rained across the dark, moving faster than bullets. Aaron guided his ship through the chaos with hands steady on the controls. His eyes darted across the screens, reading the shifting paths, predicting where each stone would move. Behind him, the raiders closed in. Their engines burned bright, hungry for their prize. In the passenger seat, Lyra held the straps of her harness tightly. Her people had always spoken of humans with mixed voices. Some said they were bold explorers, others called them reckless fools. Yet as she watched Aaron, she felt a strange calm. The human pilot moved with confidence, not arrogance. Every motion of his hands carried purpose. He was not simply flying to survive. He was flying to protect. The raiders fired. Bright streaks of plasma cut through the field. Aaron twisted his ship sharply, using the cover of spinning rocks. The blasts struck stone instead of steel, lighting the darkness with bursts of fire. Lyra gasped, but Aaron did not flinch. His mind was clear. He had flown in many dangerous zones before, though never with a princess at his side. "Those ships are faster," Lyra said, her voice trembling. Aaron gave a small smile. Then we'll have to be smarter. He shifted power to the engines, weaving through gaps that seemed too narrow for survival. The raiders followed, but their larger ships scraped against the rocks. One clipped its wing on a boulder and spun out of control, smashing against another stone. Lyra's eyes widened. The humans' maneuvers were not only saving them, they were defeating their enemies without a single shot fired. For an hour, the chase continued. The raiders pressed harder, but the field itself became Aaron's weapon. At last, only 2 remained, and even they began to fall behind. Aaron pushed his ship toward the far edge of the belt, engines straining. Finally, the black opened before them. Stars spread across the void like a calm sea after a storm. The raiders, wounded and scattered, did not follow. Aaron leaned back in his seat, his breath heavy but steady. He checked the readings, then looked at his passenger. Lyra still clutched her straps, but her eyes no longer showed only fear. Now they carried something else. Respect. "You are skilled," she said softly. "No one from my guard flew like that." Aaron shrugged lightly. "Out here you learn to survive. If you don't last long." Silence filled the cabin for a moment. Then Lyra spoke again, her tone gentle. "You knew nothing about me, yet you risked your life to save mine." "Why?" Aaron met her gaze. His voice was simple, without pride. "Because you called for help. That was enough." Lyra had grown up in a palace of power and politics. She had seen leaders who moved only for gain, advisors who spoke only for advantage. Yet here was a man with no crown, no rank, and no reason to involve himself. Still, he had flown into danger with nothing but his will. She felt a stirring in her heart, something she had not felt before. Trust in a human. As the ship cruised toward safer space, Aaron checked her condition. "You need rest," he said. "That wreck you were in looked bad. Were you hurt?" Lyra shook her head. "Not hurt, only weak. They took me from my guards. Pirates. They wanted ransom, I think, but their ship was attacked too by others. In the fight, I was left behind, alone, until you came." Aaron nodded, piecing the story together. It made sense now. The wreck had been the pirates' vessel, or perhaps one they had captured. In their greed, they had lost control, leaving her stranded. He offered her water from his supplies. She accepted with quiet gratitude, sipping slowly. The taste was strange to her tongue, yet it gave her strength. Hours passed as the ship drifted under the stars. Outside, the galaxy was endless, filled with light and shadow. Inside, the silence was soft, broken only by the hum of the engines. Lyra studied Aaron when he was not looking. His clothes were simple, his hair untidy, his hands marked by years of work. He was nothing like the polished diplomats or the armored guards she knew. Yet there was something in him greater than wealth or armor, a spirit that did not bend. Finally, she spoke again. "My people fear humans. They say you are unpredictable, dangerous, too quick to fight." Aaron glanced at her, then turned back to the controls. "Maybe some of that is true. We fight when we have to, but we also help when we can. I don't know what your people believe, but I know what I believe. No one should be left behind." His words were plain, but they carried weight. Lyra felt them settle in her heart. She thought of her mother, the queen, who even now must be in sorrow. She thought of her people, who would never believe a human had saved her life. "Do you mean to return me?" she asked. Aaron gave a firm nod. "Yes, whatever it takes, I'll see you safe." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. In his eyes, she saw no shadow of deceit. She realized that for the first time since her capture, she truly believed she would survive. The ship glided on, leaving the dangerous belt behind. Aaron set a course toward neutral territory where he could repair, refuel, and plan their path back to her world. Lyra leaned back, closing her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her, but hope steadied her heart. As sleep touched her, one final thought came to her mind. Perhaps the stories about humans were wrong. Perhaps they were not reckless, intruders, but something else. A people with fire in their hearts, a fire that could protect as well as destroy. The stars were quiet as Aaron's ship left the asteroid field, but silence in space was never lasting. Lyra rested in her seat, her eyes closed, her breathing calm at last. Aaron did not disturb her. He kept his hands steady on the controls, eyes, scanning every signal on his screens. He knew the raiders were not finished. Pirates did not forget a prize as valuable as a royal hostage. The hum of the engines filled the cabin. Aaron adjusted power between systems, careful to balance speed with fuel. He had to think ahead because his ship could not fight in a drawn-out battle. Survival meant using his brain as much as his hands. His instincts told him the chase was far from over. Hours passed. Lyra stirred awake, her gaze lifting to the windows. The stars stretched endlessly, a sea of light and shadow. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to feel safe. Then she noticed Aaron's serious expression. "You expect them to follow," she said softly. Aaron nodded. "They lost you once. They won't let it happen again. Not while they think you're worth something. To sell." Her chest tightened. "If they catch us—" "They won't," Aaron said firmly. He glanced at her with a calm smile. "Not while I'm flying." Before she could reply, a sharp alarm pierced the cabin. Red lights flickered across the control panels. Aaron's scanners lit up with hostile signals. Several ships were closing in fast from behind. The raiders had found them. Lyra gripped her seat. "How many?" Aaron checked the readings. 4. Small craft, but faster than us. The pirates wasted no time. They opened fire, sending streaks of plasma cutting through the darkness. Aaron twisted the ship into a sudden dive, the blasts passing close enough to shake the hull. Lyra gasped as sparks flickered across the cabin walls. Aaron pushed the engines, guiding the ship into a field of drifting debris left from an ancient battle. Broken weapons, shattered hulls, and twisted metal floated endlessly. To most pilots, it was a graveyard too dangerous to enter. To Aaron, it was cover. The ship darted between the wreckage. Pirates followed, their engines bright, their weapons firing without pause. The ruins came alive with flashes as plasma struck old steel, scattering shards into the void. Aaron wove through with sharp turns, guiding his craft with a precision, born from years of practice. Lyra watched in awe. Every movement seemed impossible, yet Aaron made it look natural. Her people's best pilots relied on advanced computers, but this human relied on himself. His instincts were sharper than machines. Still, the pirates pressed closer. One slipped ahead, circling to cut them off. Aaron narrowed his eyes. "So that's your plan," he muttered. He shifted power to the thrusters and spun the ship around. A massive broken cruiser. The pirate appeared in front of them, weapons ready. Aaron acted first. He twisted the ship sideways, scraping dangerously close to the wreck, and fired his own small cannons. His weapons were weaker, but the shots struck. True, the pirate's wing broke apart, sending the raider spinning helplessly into the ruins. "One down," Aaron said quietly. The others only grew more furious. Their blasts grew heavier, forcing Aaron into tighter maneuvers. Lyra's hands shook as she held on, yet she never looked away. Her fear was real, but alongside it grew something stronger. Faith. "You fight not only for yourself," she whispered, almost to herself. "You fight for me, though I am not your people." Aaron did not answer at first. His focus was total. Then, with his voice steady, he said, "Right now, you're under my care. That makes you my people." Her heart skipped at the words. Simple, plain, yet filled with meaning. The pirates regrouped, forming a triangle around Iran's ship. Their strategy was clear. Box him in, force him to stop. Aaron gritted his teeth. He needed something bold, something they would not expect. "Hold tight," he warned. Before Lyra could ask, Aaron cut the engines completely. The sudden silence pressed heavy in the cabin. The ship drifted like a dead vessel, powerless. The pirates, caught off guard, slowed slightly, unsure. Then, in that moment of hesitation, Aaron reignited the engines at full thrust. His ship shot forward with explosive speed, slipping through the smallest gap between two raiders before they could close it. Plasma fire missed by inches, lighting the void behind them. Aaron's maneuver left the pirates scrambling, their formation broken. Two collided in their rush, one smashing against floating debris. Another tried to follow, but clipped its wing and spun out. Only one remained on their tail. Aaron pushed the engines hard, but fuel warnings blinked red. He could not run forever. He glanced at the radar, eyes sharp. A cluster of moons appeared ahead, orbiting a gas giant. Their surfaces reflected light like silver. Aaron steered toward them. The remaining pirate followed, eager for the chase. Aaron guided the ship low over the nearest moon's icy plains, weaving between sharp ridges. The pirate dove after them, firing constantly. Aaron pulled sudden turns, his ship skimming close to the surface. Dust and ice sprayed upward, masking their path. Finally, Aaron spotted a deep canyon splitting the moon's crust. Without hesitation, he dropped into it. The pirate followed, but the canyon narrowed quickly. Aaron's ship skimmed the jagged walls. Every second, a risk of collision. Lyra held her breath, her trust now absolute. At the last moment, Aaron pulled upward sharply. His ship shot out of the canyon. The pirate, flying too fast and too close, could not react. It struck the canyon wall in a burst of flame, disappearing into the ice below. Silence returned. The radar cleared. The pirates were gone. Aaron leaned back, breathing hard. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes stayed sharp. "That should buy us time," he said. Lyra's chest rose and fell quickly, but her gaze was steady. "You saved me again. No, more than that. You saved us both. My people will never believe such skill is possible from a human." Aaron gave a tired smile. "Then maybe they need to see it for themselves." The ship drifted upward, leaving the moon behind. Above them, the stars spread wide and endless once more. Lyra looked out at them, then back at Aaron. She thought of her mother, waiting in sorrow, and of the future that now seemed brighter. She whispered softly, "Perhaps humans are not what we thought. Perhaps they are something more." Aaron said nothing. He only guided his ship toward the next stretch of space, knowing the journey was far from over. But in that quiet cabin, under the endless stars, trust between human and alien grew stronger than before. After escaping the pirates, the space around them felt quiet and empty. Lyra leaned back in her seat, watching the stars stretch endlessly across the void. Her heart still raced from the chase, but alongside the fear was a new feeling: trust. For the first time since her capture, she felt certain that someone outside her people could protect her. Aaron kept his eyes on the control panel, his hands steady on the ship. He had flown dangerous fields before, but never with someone so important, depending entirely on him. He could feel her watching him, sensing her attention, but he did not speak at once. There was no need. Actions often said more than words. Hours passed in silence, the hum of the ship the only sound. Finally, Lyra spoke. "Why did you help me? You did not have to come. You could have stayed at your outpost, safe." Aaron's hands paused briefly on the controls. "I heard your call for help. That was enough. I did not need a reason beyond that." Lyra's gaze turned thoughtful. In my world, people only act when there is a gain or a command. You act without command, without reward. Why? Aaron smiled faintly. Maybe because sometimes helping is enough reason. Maybe it's not always about gain. She studied him, absorbing his words. They were simple, yet unlike anything she had been taught in the palace. Trust in her world was earned slowly, often tied to politics or family. Yet here was a human who asked for nothing and risked everything. Lyra realized that trust could be more than a duty. It could be a choice, freely given. You have courage, she said softly. Not only to face danger, but to act without fear of others' opinion. That is rare. Aaron shrugged. Courage is often just deciding not to give up, no matter how hard it gets. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling warmth in her chest. She had always believed that humans were reckless, driven by pride or impulse. Now she saw something different. Humans could be reckless, yes, but they could also be brave and selfless. She thought of her people, their careful planning, their reliance on rules. They were strong, but not all of them could choose to act when no one demanded it. Will you tell your people what you have done? Lyra asked after a pause. That you risked your life for me? Aaron shook his head. Not yet. They would not understand. They might even see it as foolish. Sometimes it is better to let actions speak for themselves. Lyra nodded slowly, understanding. She thought of the queen, her mother, and how proud she would be to know that someone else had kept her daughter safe. Yet she also knew that trust was fragile. Once lost, it was difficult to regain. She decided then that she would protect this bond with the human pilot, just as he had protected her. The journey continued in silence, but it was no longer tense. Lyra spoke again, softly, almost as if testing the air. Do you always help strangers? Aaron glanced at her. Not always, but if I can, I do. You never know when a small act might matter more than you think. Her eyes brightened. Then, you must see the galaxy differently than we do. We look for rules, alliances, advantage. You look for people. That's one way to put it, he said, returning his focus to the controls. I care about people, not titles, not crowns, not fleets, just people. Lyra thought of the vast empires, the palace politics, the endless planning for power. Everything was calculated, measured. And yet, here was a human, navigating through danger with nothing but instinct, skill, and heart. She felt a sense of hope. Perhaps humans could bring something new to the galaxy, something her people had not yet imagined. Hours turned into days as they traveled. They avoided known trade routes and stayed in hidden space lanes, using old star charts and memory to move quietly. Lyra learned to watch the stars, to read the small signals that Aaron used to guide the ship. She began to see the world as he did, full of risk, yes, but also full of opportunity for those brave enough to act. At one point, a miner system flashed on the radar. Aaron decided to stop briefly to refuel and check the ship's systems. Lyra observed as he worked, marveling at how quickly he repaired damage, rerouted power, and prepared for the next stretch of space. His confidence reassured her. He did not panic. He did not hesitate. He simply acted, and it worked. You make it look easy, she said softly. Aaron chuckled lightly. It's not easy. It only looks that way because I do it often enough that my hands remember before my mind does. Lyra smiled. I hope I can learn that one day. You will, he said simply. You've survived worse than this. Courage is a habit, not a gift. For the first time in days, Lyra allowed herself to relax fully. She trusted Aaron completely. He was not just a pilot. He was a protector, a guide, and now a friend. She realized that the bond they shared went beyond rescue. It was built on mutual respect and the choice to trust, even across worlds that had little reason to understand each other. As the ship lifted off from the small station, the stars stretched endless ahead. Aaron set a course toward the nearest safe checkpoint, where they could plan their return to her world. Lyra watched him silently, feeling a sense of gratitude and admiration. She had always believed that strength came from power or position. Now she knew it could also come from courage, compassion, and the willingness to act for others. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost to herself. Aaron glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "You don't need to thank me. We're alive, that's enough." Lyra nodded, but in her heart, she knew that it was more than enough. She had found trust where she least expected it, in a human who saw the value of life and the courage to act. And she knew that this trust, once given, could change not only their fates, but perhaps the way her people saw humans forever. The journey was far from over, but as the stars rolled past and the hum of the ship filled the cabin, a quiet certainty settled between them. They were no longer just a pilot and a princess. They were allies. They were friends. They were proof that trust could span galaxies and that courage could be found in the most unexpected places. The journey toward Lyra's homeworld was quiet, yet heavy with anticipation. Aaron guided the ship through the familiar lanes of space with careful precision. Every course adjustment, every minor calculation reflected his determination to return her safely. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes fixed on the stars outside, thinking about the palace and the queen who awaited her. The thought of facing her mother filled her with both hope and anxiety. Her mother, the queen, was a figure of strength and wisdom. She ruled with fairness, yet her presence carried a weight that inspired loyalty and respect. Lyra knew the queen, would be relieved to see her, yet the princess also feared the questions, the scrutiny, and the political consequences of her disappearance. How would her people react to a human rescuing her? Would they accept it, or would they demand explanation and punishment for the strangers who had dared to touch their world? Aaron noticed her quiet thoughtfulness. "You're thinking too much," he said gently. "Focus on the moment. The rest will come." Lyra smiled faintly. "You make it sound so simple, but my return will change many things." "You've survived worse than this," Aaron replied. "Trust yourself. You'll handle it." For hours, the ship glided through space. As they approached the outer atmosphere of her planet, the familiar shapes of mountains and oceans became visible. Lyra leaned forward, marveling at the sight. Her homeworld stretched before her, vast and beautiful. The clouds reflected the light of the sun, and rivers gleamed like silver threads across the land. She felt a surge of relief and longing. This was the place that had always been hers, yet seeing it now from space, she realized how much danger she had been in. Aaron adjusted the ship's trajectory, guiding them safely toward the landing docks, near the palace. The facility was heavily guarded as expected. Armored vehicles patrolled the perimeter, and defense satellites scanned the skies for threats. Lyra's heart beat faster as they descended. She knew the arrival of a human ship would not go unnoticed. As the ship touched down, alarms and lights signaled their presence. Guards rushed to the landing site, weapons drawn, and commands shouted in hurried tones. Aaron kept the ship steady while the hatch opened. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the approaching figures. The first to reach her was a royal aide, followed by palace guards. Their eyes widened at the sight of a human pilot guiding a small craft to the palace. Lyra moved quickly between them and Aaron, her presence commanding attention despite her weakened state. "This is him," she said firmly, gesturing to Aaron. "He is the one who rescued me." The guards hesitated, suspicion flashing in their eyes. Humans were still strangers to many of the people here. Some viewed them with admiration, while others distrusted them completely. Yet the princess's words carried weight. The queen emerged from the palace, her long robes flowing behind her. Her expression was a mix of fear, relief, and authority. She approached quickly, her gaze fixed on her daughter. "Lyra!" she exclaimed, her voice a mixture of relief and concern. Lyra ran forward and embraced her mother. The queen held her tightly, her heart finally at ease. "You are safe," she whispered, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You are safe." Aaron stood quietly to the side, observing the reunion. He had expected gratitude, perhaps praise, yet he did not seek acknowledgement. His role was simple: ensure Lyra's safety and deliver her home. Yet he felt a subtle tension in the air. The queen's gaze shifted to him, sharp and assessing. "You are the human who saved my daughter?" the queen asked, her voice steady but firm. Aaron bowed slightly. "Yes, your majesty. I only did what I could to ensure her safety." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "It seems your courage is greater than I expected. Not many would risk themselves so willingly." Aaron's gaze remained calm. "I only acted because it was right." The queen's eyes softened, and for the first time, she allowed herself to see beyond the title and species of this man. Here was someone who had acted without fear or selfish motives. Here was a human whose spirit could not be measured by rank, nor by technology. Lyra's words had been true. He had risked everything to protect her, and that act alone held a value greater than any fleet or weapon. "Come inside," the queen said finally, gesturing toward the palace. "You will be honored as a guest. You have earned that much." Aaron followed, careful to remain respectful yet aware of the importance of his presence. Inside, the halls were filled with advisors, guards, and servants. Whispers spread quickly. Many could not believe that a human had saved the princess. Some doubted the story, while others marveled at the courage displayed. Lyra led her mother to a private chamber. "You see," she said softly, "he risked his life for me, not for reward, not for power, only because he knew it was right." The Queen looked at Aaron again, studying his calm demeanor and quiet confidence. "Your people must be proud of you," she said. Aaron shook his head. "I act for those in need, your majesty. I do not seek pride or recognition." The queen regarded him thoughtfully. "Your actions will be remembered here. Many will speak of your courage. You have proven that humanity, though young among the stars, has a strength beyond technology or fleets. You have proven that spirit and honor can change the fate of worlds." Lyra watched the exchange, feeling pride and gratitude. She had survived because of him, and now the queen herself acknowledged the value of his courage. It was a rare moment, one that bridged the gap between two worlds. Over the next few hours, Aaron was questioned gently by the queen and her advisors. They wanted to understand the events that had led to Lyra's capture and rescue. He recounted the journey calmly, detailing the dangers, the pursuit, and the final escape. His account was precise, yet his respect for Lyra was clear in every word. The queen listened closely, her expression thoughtful. She realized that humans, though underestimated, by many carried something unique: courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to act without expectation of reward. These qualities could not be measured by fleets, weapons, or politics. They were qualities that shaped the future. By evening, the palace had quieted. Lyra and her mother remained together, discussing plans for the days ahead. Aaron was escorted to a guest chamber, given rest and food. He had done his duty, yet he was not treated as a stranger. For the first time, he felt acceptance in an alien world, recognition of not only his actions, but also the value of his character. As night fell, Lyra looked out from her balcony. The stars stretched endlessly, as they had when Aaron first rescued her. She thought of the journey, of fear and courage, and of the bond that had formed between them. She knew that her people would not forget this day, nor the human who had changed their perception of what humanity could be. Aaron rested quietly, in his room, unaware that the simple act of answering a call for help would ripple across the galaxy. He had returned a princess to her mother, but in doing so, he had shown that humans could be a force for hope, trust, and courage in a universe that often measured value in power alone. The Queen's daughter was safe. Humanity's spirit had been witnessed, and the story of this rescue would be remembered as the day courage and trust bridged worlds. The palace was alive with quiet excitement the next morning. Word had spread quickly of Aaron's daring rescue, and whispers of admiration filled the corridors. Lyra moved beside her mother, watching as her people reacted to the news. Some were skeptical, unable to believe a human could navigate the dangers of space and outsmart pirates. Others were curious, their eyes bright with wonder at the courage displayed. The Queen had called a private council in the main hall, inviting not only her advisors, but also representatives from neighboring systems. Aaron stood calmly among them, his posture firm, his expression neutral. He did not boast or demand recognition. He simply waited, as if his actions spoke for themselves. The Queen began, her voice steady and commanding. "We have gathered to acknowledge an extraordinary event. My daughter Lyra was taken from us. Many believed her fate was uncertain, yet through courage and skill she has been returned safely." She paused, her gaze sweeping the assembly. Then she turned to Aaron. "This man, a human pilot, risked his life to bring her back. Without hesitation, without expectation of reward, he answered a call for help." Lyra stepped forward, her own voice firm and clear. "I was lost and afraid, but he guided me through dangers I could not have faced alone. He saved me, and in doing so, he has shown what humans can be." A murmur ran through the room. Some looked at each other, astonishment and respect mixing in their expressions. Aaron remained silent, but his eyes met Lyra's briefly. There was no pride, only understanding. He had done what needed to be done. That was enough. The Queen raised her hand for silence. "Let it be known that courage and honor are not bound by species or title. They are found in those who act with purpose and heart. Today, humanity has shown that it possesses these qualities in abundance." She turned back to Aaron. "For your bravery, skill, and selflessness, you are honored in our records. You are recognized not only as a friend of our people, but as one whose deeds will be remembered for generations." Aaron inclined his head in respect. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I acted because it was right, not for honor. But I am grateful for your acknowledgement." The council applauded, though some remained in quiet contemplation. Many had underestimated humans before, believing them simple or reckless. Now they saw evidence that courage could come in forms they had never expected. Aaron's actions had bridged a gap of understanding, showing that humanity was more than its technology or fleet size. It was the spirit of the individual that could change outcomes. Lyra moved closer to Aaron, her smile gentle. "You have changed my world and perhaps many others," she said. "Not just by saving me, but by showing what trust and courage can do." Aaron's eyes softened. "We all have a choice to act. Sometimes it is small, sometimes it is great. I did what I could because it mattered to me." The Queen watched the exchange, understanding that the bond between human and princess was more than mere gratitude. It was respect, trust, and recognition of shared courage. These qualities could shape alliances and friendships across galaxies. She realized that Lyra's experience with Aaron would influence not only her, but also her people's view of humans. Royal scribes stepped forward, recording the events in meticulous detail. Every action, every decision, every act of bravery was noted. The record would be preserved, a lasting testament to the human pilot who had answered a call in space and changed the destiny of a princess. Outside, the sky turned brilliant as the planet's sun rose higher, bathing the palace in light. Lyra looked toward the horizon, feeling a sense of peace she had not known since her capture. She had survived, returned safely, and witnessed the courage of another species firsthand. She felt hope for future connections, alliances, and understanding that might bridge worlds in ways her people had never imagined. The Queen spoke softly to Lyra. "You have learned much, and not just about yourself. You have seen that courage and trust can cross boundaries, and that even a single individual can make a difference in the fate of many." Lyra nodded. "I have, and I will carry this lesson always." Aaron, standing quietly nearby, reflected on the journey. The chase, the dangers, the trust Lyra had shown in him, all of it had taught him something too. Humans had a role in the galaxy not merely as explorers or warriors, but as allies capable of courage and compassion. His actions had been simple in intention, yet their impact was vast. He realized that the smallest choice, answering a call for help, could echo across worlds. The council concluded with formal recognition. Aaron was offered gifts, honors, and the promise of friendship between his people and Lyra's. He accepted, modestly, knowing that actions mattered more than ceremony. Lyra's gratitude, the Queen's acknowledgement, and the respect of the people were more than enough. As the hall emptied, Lyra turned to Aaron once more. "You have taught me more than I could have imagined, about courage, about trust, and about the heart of humanity." Aaron smiled faintly. "And you have taught me that even those born into power can learn from others. That courage and trust are not limited to any one world." The bond between them had grown stronger than ever. They had shared danger, fear, hope, and understanding. In those experiences, they found recognition, not only from others, but from themselves. Even as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of gold and purple, the world felt changed. Humanity's spirit had been recognized, and trust had been forged across species. Lyra's people would remember this day, and in their hearts, they would carry the lesson that courage, honor, and compassion were universal. Aran prepared to leave, knowing that his journey among the stars would continue. Yet he carried with him a new understanding of the impact a single person could have. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and opportunity, but also full of chances to act rightly, to protect, and to inspire. Lyra watched him depart, feeling hope and gratitude. She knew that the story of her rescue and the human who had made it possible would be told for generations. It would inspire courage, trust, and the belief that even across worlds, the right choice could change everything. As the ship disappeared into the sky, Lyra whispered quietly to herself, "May your courage guide others as it has guided me."